days and sleepless nights.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Awkward Situations, the series where you guys leave comments about situations happening in your life, awkward or otherwise, and then we talk about them. I have a few things to talk about myself before we talk about the first awkward situation today. So if you want to listen, cool. If you don't, I always leave that banner up on the screen at the start of the video that tells you when the first awkward situation is going to be, and I think I'll leave timestamps in the description like I did last week because people really seem to like that. So first things first, my cat Finn is on my lap asleep right now, and that is not relevant to anything that I wanted to discuss in this video, but he's warm and I enjoy it, so I'm in a good mood. Second, I wanted to say thank you because last week's Awkward Situations episode was extremely successful. I know a lot of you guys don't care about the analytical side of YouTube, but watch time is the big number. If you're a YouTuber, that's what you're looking at. And I think my watch time on last week's Awkward Situations video is going to be higher than any other video I upload this month, or I think any video I uploaded last month for that matter. So I'm taking that feedback and I'm going to try to make longer Awkward Situations episodes the norm. What I would consider longer is about 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to make all of them about 20 to 30 minutes. People seem to really like that, and it looks really good in terms of data. People aren't clicking off the video as fast as I thought they would, and I just appreciate knowing that you guys like the video. Last, and this is very important, I've said this before, but there are certain comments that I will not cover in a video because, quite frankly, the answer to these comments are to seek out professional help. I read every single comment on every single Awkward Situations video. For the most part, I don't know if there's a way that I could not see the comments, but I even go to the held comment section, and I'm pretty sure I see at least 90% of the comments. And there are some that are devastating and situations that require a professional's help. I am not a professional. I don't even have a degree in psychology. I am not a grief counselor. There are many things I cannot do. I can talk to people. I like talking to people, but if you have a situation where there's a domestic abuse happening in some way, shape, or form in your home, or you're having suicidal thoughts, things that are of a nature that require professional help, please seek out that professional help. Google suicide hotline, toll-free. There's a lot of free hotlines for many different situations that you could talk about or that you need to discuss with a professional. If you just Google is your friend, go through that resource. I am not someone who can help with a lot of those more devastating situations. I usually comment and give advice on how to seek out professional help. But again, if you need somebody to intervene in a situation and you're asking me what do I do, I'm just going to respond with seek out professional help. And I appreciate all of the commenters who respond to those situations as well and advise people that in some of the more devastating scenarios in the comments, you really need to talk to professionals. I talk to professionals. I've had a very cushy life, a very easy life up until this point, and I still require therapy. So I could imagine how difficult it would be for people who have had more devastating home scenarios or have just seen more tragedy than I have. You need professionals, and there are resources even if you are not rich or if you're even broke. I mean, there's many resources. So just Google is your friend. Use Google. With that out of the way, I'm going to get to the first awkward situation right now. If you're listening to this video in another tab, I had to remove a few of the names from this situation in an effort to uphold this person's anonymity, so that's going to sound kind of weird when I read the situation aloud, but I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Hey Nobody, a couple of weeks ago I made a fake Facebook account to find out what things people were saying behind my back. The account is under the name blank, and the pictures are images of blank from like 2006, and people are actually believing it to be a real person. I've used it to try seeing what things people say behind my back, stand up to some people internet bullying others without revealing my actual identity, and I've also used it to talk to some of the girls I talk to in real life and see who they really are from a different perspective. Now I'm trying to get on with my life, and I know it's not going to be easy to kill off this blank persona because too many people know it's actually me, and I don't want to draw any attention by just deleting this account. What do you think I should do? I feel like the person who wrote this situation is not going to like my advice because my initial thoughts are that you should just delete the page if you feel like it's a burden on your life. I don't know what else you could do if you feel like it's a burden on your life. I don't know how you make it any less of a burden. I mean, would you hire someone to manage the page for you? and that person that you hired off of Craigslist would report back to you with how Susie is really feeling about you. Does she want that D, or is she just teasing you? Or is Tommy talking shit behind your back? Is he trying to get this knuckle sandwich on Thursday? What the hell are you saying behind my back, Tommy? I know what you're saying because I have a fake Facebook profile that's figuring all these things out for me. I don't know what else you could do if you thought it was a burden on your life besides delete the page. But I understand the draw of an online persona. You probably formed relationships on this Facebook profile page that you would not have formed otherwise, and you feel like deleting this page deletes those relationships. My YouTube channel is an online persona. I do not just go around screaming obscenities at things that upset me in the real world, but I can do that on the internet. It is a great stress relief. I highly recommend it. However, the part that I cannot relate to in this comment is the figuring out what people are saying about me behind my back portion. I don't know how you guys feel about this, and I would appreciate some feedback on this specific comment in addition to your own situations, but I never want to know what people are saying about me behind my back. And I understand that by standing in this corner, by having this opinion, this firm belief, I will never truly know how a person feels about me, except the great exception would be my wife. I feel like I know 99% of how she feels about me. And then other people in my life, you got some 70% range, some 60% range, but I'll never truly know how a person feels. And I think that's the way it should be, because if you knew every little bit of what every person thought of you, your only friend would be a mirror. You would only be friends with yourself. I don't know how you could separate that. And I think that this person who created this page has some insecurities, as we all do. And I don't think that this page will solve those insecurities. So what if you know what people say about you behind your back? Let's take, for example, one of my friends. What if my friend Speedy was behind my back saying, I'm a small dick loser who doesn't make good YouTube content? Well, I guess that's his opinion, and that would really hurt my feelings. But other than hurting my feelings, I don't know how that changes my life or helps me. I guess it would only hurt me. But if he's only saying that behind my back and not to my face, that's kind of shitty, but I still maintain that friendship with him. Is this terrible advice? I feel like I'm really walking this line of not making sense and fighting for the wrong side of an argument, but I really feel that way. I don't want to know what people say about me behind my back. And I guess that's a optimistic view of the world, viewing the world through rose-colored glasses, not fully facing reality. But I think that's better than the alternative of knowing and being a total pessimist. Well, you wouldn't be a pessimist, you'd be a realist, but the world would be more negative than it should be for people. We're only here for a set amount of years. If I'm living in a world of 70% truths and 30% whatever I assume it is, hopefully the optimistic side of things, I'm fine with that. Sometimes you have to talk shit about people behind their back. It's a great way to de-stress and realize that the relationship as a whole is more important than these little minuscule things that annoy you. And talking about those things maybe to someone you really trust that would not mention them, which is very difficult in this gossip culture. This millennial generation wants to say everything at all times. You know, you got to share your life. So I don't know who I would trust to tell certain things besides my wife. I tell my wife everything. That's the one person. You know, you got to have at least one person you can tell these things to. I think it's good to be able to get those things out of the way, bitch about some things that annoy you about people, and then at the end of that conversation, you realize that your relationship with that person is more important than these little minuscule things. Or maybe you don't realize that and you just have to constantly bitch about this person behind you. You should probably cut that person out of your life. But I would just delete the profile. I don't know what else you could do. I don't see an alternative. There are no easy answers to certain questions. So you might want to delete this profile. I mean, if you have any ongoing conversations with other catfishes or people in the school, you might want to wrap those up and say, hey, I'm moving to New York. I had an imaginary friend when I was 7 years old. Her name was Amy. And one day I decided she moved to New York. You know, I didn't kill her. She didn't, just disappear into thin air. She moved to New York, and my imaginary friend Amy is actually currently living in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and she's having a successful career. She doesn't have a relationship, but she's really focusing on her career right now. She's got a couple of cats, and I'm proud of her. But some things just have to leave your life, and the consequences of things leaving your life or ending relationships or whatever, they're going to work themselves out, even if you don't feel comfortable with facing those consequences. I don't know what else I could say about this situation. I would appreciate your guys' feedback. I like seeing the comments, so let's go to the next situation, which is a little easier for me to talk about. Hey Joel, I have been talking to a girl in my class at school for quite a while now. Last Friday, I managed to get her number. We messaged almost nonstop the whole weekend, though come Monday, I was greeted with bad news. Her mom is a very religious woman and does not like cussing. I was not aware of this, and she found my social medias and was not very happy. Now I am told I can't message her at all. Is there any way I could fix this situation? I'm going to try to talk about this situation while first discussing some of the difficulties I have in talking about this situation. I only have what I read to go off of. I don't know what you said on social media that was so bad. Maybe you're an angry sports fan and you said the New York Giants look like ass, which isn't that bad. Or maybe you have some more devious thoughts and you said something like, Jesus Christ can suck my dick, which would obviously make religious people mad. And I also don't know what her parental situation is like in terms of her parents restricting the messaging on her phone. I don't know if they check her phone once daily to see who she's talking to. I guess that's what I will assume, since you said she won't be able to message you, but it seems like there should be a way in this day and age that you could get around that restriction. But at the very least, you can talk to her in class, you can talk to her in real life, unless she has some type of body camera that she has to show to her parents every day that show her every interaction, in which case her parents need to fucking get some new hobbies and stop worrying so much about their children. My first piece of advice, if you are looking to pursue a formal relationship with this girl, would be to ease up on the social media swearing if it's something extreme like Jesus Christ can suck my dick. And I know a lot of people watching this video don't like hearing that, because in my last episode, I talked about how my own life experiences have shaped how I say things and the words that I choose to use in my daily life. Most people understood the message, and there were a few people that just instantly get turned off by the idea of thinking about what you say, thinking before you use certain words. I should be able to say anything. I have a First Amendment right to say anything I want, and I understand that. I understand that you can say whatever you want. One of the best things about this country. But words have consequences. For most people, those consequences will be minuscule. For most reasonable people, swearing or certain words are not an issue. Even though I don't like certain words, I am not offended by certain words. I cannot think of a word that truly offends me. I can think of words that make me think of things in my life that are negative, and that's what I talked about in the last episode, but there's nothing that truly offends me. Obviously, for her mother, that is not the case. If rounding second base with this girl is more important to you than being able to say whatever you want, I would try to censor yourself a little bit more on social media. Obviously, don't tweet about Jesus Christ sucking dick anymore. I know who you are. I saw that tweet on your profile page. I'm sure you didn't say that. But I think you should be able to say the New York Giants suck ass, because sometimes the New York Giants suck ass. And I'm not saying that as somebody who hates the Giants. Don't attack me, Giants fans. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. My team is terrible. I'm only saying that as somebody who has a friend who likes to bash the Giants on social media. Even though he's their biggest fan, it's his way of venting about their issues. So it's just in the forefront of my mind right now. Just an example. Just totally ignore that. The Giants don't suck ass. The Giants suck ass. Anyway, second, you're going to have to realize that first impressions aren't everything. They're very important. First impressions are very important. Now I'm going to go into something that happened in my life. When I first started dating my now wife, Megan, I had this Facebook profile picture. I'm not a very religious person, but I thank God every day that she still wanted to date me. Even after she saw this Facebook profile picture of mine, it's very cringeworthy looking back on it. That was a 17-year-old Joel, maybe late 16-year-old Joel, definitely 17-year-old Joel, with a flat-bill Detroit Tigers hat and a graffiti background. That's actually a piece of graffiti that was in East Lansing that is no longer there. So I guess that's kind of artistic, but mostly cringeworthy. A couple of members of her family saw that profile picture and assumed that I don't want to say what they assumed I was, because I don't fully know, but they didn't get the best impression of the flat bill cap and the graffiti, and I definitely swore a lot more. I mean, I'm just really not on Facebook anymore. Facebook is kind of a shithole in my opinion, and I do stay on Twitter to get my news and interact with people. Twitter can be a shithole at times too, but at the time on Facebook, I would post some more instigating things, I guess, or so, swear more than I would. And I think the combination of the douche picture with some of my Facebook profile comments was not the best first impression for some members of her family. Luckily, those members of her family did not let that first impression be their final impression. We met, and I was nice, and they were nice, gracious hosts. I have such a great relationship with her family now. It is one of the things I treasure most in this world. I have found a new family in my 20s, and it's so great to have that love expand. I think when you get older, your love expands out to more and more people, the people you meet, the family you have. It has made my life so much better by having those people in my life. And it didn't start great. A lot of these situations don't start great. First impressions, like I said, they're difficult, but they don't have to be the final impression, because now I don't remember what was said or what my first impressions were of most of the people in her family or most people I meet in my life that I'm friends with. I don't remember the first time I met my friends. I remember the first time we did a couple of things together, but once you have all of these other experiences pile on top of that bad first impression, that bad first impression can go away entirely, or at least become something you can joke about. So I think if you were to become close to this girl through talking to her in class or messaging her in some encrypted way that her mom could not see, and you really wanted to pursue this relationship, you felt like it would make you better as a person and it's totally worth it, then I would try to be the best person you possibly can and hope that her parents will give you a chance. If they won't, they're very shitty people, and that's unfortunate when you're adults. Hopefully, I don't know, I'm assuming you're not very close to adult age, but if you're an adult, you don't need your parents' permission to date somebody. But if you're younger, I hope they would give you a chance, because I've had this situation happen. Even a girlfriend in high school, separate of Megan, I've had a similar situation. I mean, older people in general are just more religious, so you run into things like this social media generation kind of coming to a head with the older generation, and these issues happen. But I feel like when you talk to people in real life, you can give them just the best possible impression of yourself, and I hope that you can pile those impressions on top of that bad first impression, and they'll give you a second chance. I mean, if they're truly religious, then forgiveness is one of the foremost religious principles. So I hope everything works out for you. Just to summarize my advice, I would keep in contact with this girl as much as possible if you feel it's something worth pursuing in any way that you can, and hopefully her parents will forgive you. It isn't the most important thing if you're closer to the age of an adult, but I think most reasonable people would forgive you, and not something, and when I say that, I don't think it's something that you need to be sorry for. I'm talking from the perspective of somebody who would get offended by stupid shit like that, okay? So just the comments, well, he doesn't need to be forgiven. Yeah, I know. I fucking know, okay? We're talking from the religious parent's perspective. Hopefully, they can give you a second chance, and you can show them that you're a decent human being, because for most people, their social media profiles do not accurately reflect how they are in real life. So I hope that works out, and now we're going to move on to the last awkward situation. This isn't so much an awkward situation for just me, but for everyone who plays games. A lot of the older generation of people, like parents or grandparents, etc., don't seem to respect video games or us playing them. My parents seem like that sometimes, even though other times they do seem to respect them. How can I explain to them or to others why they should respect the art or creativity of video games and make them see it's not all a big waste of time? Also, did you have problems with your parents growing up with playing video games, or other people as well? I do not think it is important for older people to care about video games. I do not think it was important for my parents' parents to care about Led Zeppelin, and I do not think it was important for my parents' parents' parents to care about television. I met my great-grandmother before she died. She was 94 at the time, I think. She died in 1995. Wait, no, I think it was actually closer to 2000. Irrelevant. But I have a conscious memory of meeting my great-grandmother once. And she had never seen a television in her life. She didn't really care to. It was actually in a retirement facility, so there was a television on, but I know that she listened to radio for most of her life, and television only entered into her life at an older age. My grandmother, who I love dearly, she is one of my favorite people on the planet Earth, recently turned 83. She got a cell phone very late in her life, and she'll never have an iPhone. It's just a generation gap thing. I don't know how you could expect people to understand something outside of their own generation. I think you can have an appreciation for it. My father appreciates that video games are an interactive medium, and he sees how much joy I get out of video games and how much joy my brother gets out of video games, and he appreciates that, but he has no interest in it. And I'm sure when I am over the age of 40 and I have children, they will be interested in something that I will have no interest in. It is a very natural thing. One of the cringiest things that I see on social media, and I hate that word cringe, it is so overused on the internet, but I have to use it in this example. One of the cringiest things I see on social media is when an older radio or television personality says something that is demeaning about video games or demeaning about gamers, something that really offends the strong gaming community, the tight-knit gaming community. So everybody lashes out at these older entertainers because video games are a real thing, man. You don't understand. People make money off of them, and it's just a whole big deal, and it makes the video game community look very toxic, in my opinion. If older people don't understand, it doesn't matter because older people die. That is a very bleak thing to say in reference to you asking about your parents and grandparents, but what I mean by saying that is things become normal with time. By the time I am 35, more and more people will be into video games, and video games will be regularly on TV or whatever I watch that is TV at that time. Maybe there won't even be TV. It will just be streamlined with the internet. So it's going to be a normal thing eventually. It's already seeped into the culture more than you could probably understand, or it just is kind of a subconscious thing. These things seep into culture. It's not a video games are uncool one day and then they're cool the next day type thing. It is a slow burn. Video games have slowly seeped into culture more and more. I mean, they're making fucking movies about video games now. That Angry Birds movie, and there's many other. It's on television. E-League is on television. This is seeping into the culture whether people want to consume it or not, because people who played video games as children are getting older. Video games are getting better. Stories are getting better. The budgets are getting bigger. Video games are not going away. So acceptance is irrelevant because many, many young people accept video games, and those young people are going to get older, and they will still accept video games in their 30s and their 40s and etc. So I think you see where I'm going with this. My big overall idea is that it is not important for older people to accept video games, and I hate when the quote-unquote community lashes out at older people for not understanding something that is beyond their generation. Now, for my childhood, I did not play many video games growing up as a child. I had a Nintendo 64, a PlayStation 2, and an Xbox 360 at various points, overlapping in some cases during my childhood. I am close to my younger brother. He was born at the beginning of 1993, and I was born at the end of 1990. So we're fairly close in age, and that's my video game playing partner. We would play video games together, try to beat video games together, play online with other people when Xbox 360 got the online capabilities. Well, I mean, it always had it, but that was the first console we had where you could really play multiplayer. So he's my video game dude, and we didn't really play a lot of video games growing up because we always had cool shit to do outside. Our first house wasn't that great. I mean, it was my parents' first house they bought together, so it didn't really have much land. We didn't have any land. In fact, it was just a single-story house on this little lot. But the second house was banging. My parents bought this in 1995, and it was only a single-story house with a basement, but there was land. There was acres upon acres of land. I think my parents only owned 1 or 2 acres, but the people who owned the other 20 acres behind the house were never around. I mean, you saw no trespassing signs in the woods. There was so many woods. I don't know how to say that correctly, plurally. The woods behind the house were vast. I guess that would be a kind of correct way to say it. Anyway, you could walk around these woods for 24 hours and you would not step over the same path twice. I mean, it was so cool to go back there. I have dreams about being a child and walking through those woods. Sometimes they're nightmares because they were kind of scary. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about some of these scarier areas. There was like a swampy area with water, obviously water, and this really big tree that looked like it was 1,000 years old, and you could walk inside of the trunk because it was hollowed out for some reason. I think that kids were buried there. It was a cool place. It's not scary. I got scared sometimes. My friends and I would play Ghost in the Graveyard in those woods, and I was a little bitch, and I remember crying one time. Just, you couldn't see it. My friends couldn't really see that I had tears in my eyes, but I was like, fuck, this is so scary. Blair Witch Project just came out last year, and this is terrifying. One other very important thing to note about this house is that it had a basketball hoop in the driveway. It was a super old, rickety, shitty basketball hoop, but it was a basketball hoop, and I spent hours outside of my house in the driveway playing basketball. It was my stress reliever. Now YouTube is my stress reliever, but it's not very physical. So I wish I had a basketball hoop. When and if I buy a house, I think I'm going to buy a house, but hopefully, I can get really successful and get some house or some shit. But if I had a house, I would want, I live in like a house right now, but I'm renting. If I own my own house, I want a basketball hoop outside in the driveway. It's the only thing I really, really want because it is my favorite stress reliever. If I have a tough problem in life, if I had a bad day, I just want to go outside and shoot hoops. Even if it's 40 degrees, if my hands are warm enough to be able to feel the ball at least a little bit, I like to shoot hoops. And we had a hoop in the driveway at the second house we lived in, and then the third house, my parents had the house built, so they got to choose everything from the ground up, how many rooms there were going to be, what the layout of the house was going to be. And my parents are very cool, and they asked for my brother and my sister and my input. The one thing I said that was super important to me was, Dad, please, please, please have a really nice hoop on the driveway or in the driveway. It's off to the side of the driveway, but it is a really nice setup. Every time I go over there for holidays, if it's warm outside, I have to shoot hoops. It was the first basketball hoop I ever dunked on. It's a Gorilla backboard, by the way. That's a brand, if you don't know. And when my dad and I were setting it up, we dropped it on the driveway. It didn't break, but it broke the driveway. So it's a very strong backboard. It's so nice. I just have great memories from doing that as a child. So video games were not super important to me, and I'm going to tell that to my kids, and they're going to be playing holographic VR video games in their rooms. They're going to walk into their rooms, and it's going to be like the forest, and it's going to fucking trip me out. And I'm going to be like, God damn it, get out of the forest, Kathleen. You got to get downstairs and eat dinner. And my daughter's name is not going to be Kathleen. No offense to anyone you know in your life named Kathleen. It's just going to be crazy, and I won't understand the holographic forest that they live in their rooms because I will not be of that generation. This video is some rambling shit at this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks again for all of the wonderful comments. I look forward to reading the comments on this video in the coming days ahead. I will see you guys again next week. Goodbye.